Good afternoon, good afternoon. My name is Brigitte Daniel. I'm Executive Vice President of Wilco Electronic Systems, and on behalf of Wilco and WRD, we welcome you to our Philly Tech Week panel called Sisters in the Struggle, Unleashing the Power of Black Women Tech Entrepreneurs. This is probably like our fifth or sixth year doing a panel together, and I think it's important just to give some context what Wilco and WRD are as entities and why we think this is significant. So Wilco is a private cable company. We are Black-owned, family-owned, and we've been providing services to low-income communities for the last 40 years. And we have always been that voice of the Black community in terms of being a technology or telecom provider. And that's important because at a time in the 80s or the 70s when our company first started, there were no providers that wanted to go into our neighborhoods. And that was, a big missed opportunity. So my family and my father specifically said, I know that market is me, and I'm gonna go into there and provide those services. And exactly the same way for WRD, one of the last Black-owned radio stations in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. And for them, legacy is also very, very key. Black talk media, ownership. Now, actually, congratulations, because I think last year, WRD did not have FM, and now they are 96.1 FM. So that is a very big deal. Kudos, Sarah Lomax Reese, absolutely. So significant things are happening, right? Technology is changing all the time. We come together to present subject matters, content, that make sure that we know what's going on as a community and how we can come together. So this particular panel is very special because it's all about Black women. And we are doing some major things right now in tech. So the panel as a concept is going to discuss the marginalization of Black women in tech and the lack of funding, support, and credibility that we received. But it's funny because given those circumstances of the lack of, Black women are still the one group that actually drives digital commerce. We have the largest female buying power in the country. We're leading the charge in social media justice, activism across the nation, and we're one of the fastest growing group of entrepreneurs in America. So why are we getting the bits of the piece of the puzzle? I don't get it. We're leading the charge. So why are we not getting what everyone else is getting? We're just getting the crumbles, right? So we have an excellent sister friend panel, dear hearts of mine, coming together to really just shed some context about what this is. So we have Shelly Bell. First, Shelly is the founder of Black Girl Ventures, a social enterprise dedicated to finding creative place-based solutions to dissolve the race and gender gap in access to capital. BGV's vision is to develop and operate a framework for increasing the number of revenue-generating businesses led by women of color entrepreneurs. I'll repeat that one more time. The framework is designed to increase the number of revenue-generating businesses led by women of color entrepreneurs. Shelly Bell. We next have Dr. Jamie Bracey, longtime friend and advocate within the Philadelphia tech community. She leads Temple University's new Center for Inclusive Competitiveness, housed at the College of Engineering. We want to hear all about that new role. The center's mandate is to support STEM-based talent development and entrepreneurship grounded in urban, environmental, social, and economic sustainability. We next have Tiffanie Stanard, a very good friend and my partner for the Mogulette Stimulus, 4th Annual Women in Tech Soiree that's coming on later this evening. But Tiffany's a serial entrepreneur. She's a media personality. She's a partnership strategist. And she was named by Philadelphia Business Journal as one of the 15 women who are changing the face of tech. She's also the founder and CEO of Stimulus, which is a technology and media company that simplifies access to resources for neighborhood improvements, business development, and personal growth. Thank you, Tiff, for coming. And last but not least, Darla Wolfe. Darla is a serial entrepreneur and angel investor, and all-around just wonderful woman who's newly coming into the tech community in Philadelphia. She's the founder of EquitE, LLC, which is an innovative service company that matches experienced professionals to non-traditional work experiences and opportunities at startups and nonprofits. What I love about Darla is that she's also the executive director of the Philly New Tech Meetup, the largest monthly tech nonprofit in the city of Philadelphia. That's a big deal, particularly as a woman of color leading that charge. So we have some serious sister power on this panel to talk about really why does this matter? Why does this topic matter? Why should we all be fighting, ensuring, advocating that Black women particularly are amongst those getting our fair share? I'll open that up.
I think it's about equity. I mean, I think there's like the simple kind of like, because it's supposed to be, right? I mean, it's about equity. We've seen the pictures, you know, that one picture that always floats around with the different people on the boxes. And it's like, this is what this looks like. This is what equality looks like. It's like giving everybody the same kind of box. It's like, this is what equity looks like. And it's like everybody by height, and those who need a box needing it. And I think that, you know, based on the statistics and based on Black women we know in general and just what we know, that there's some boxes that need to go under some different groups. And it's just time that we do that.
Absolutely.
For me, it's about civilization. It's about our not just surviving and thriving, but leadership in reestablishing how technology and innovation can be used and applied inside our communities to help us be better to us and better to others, so that we're considered better partners in the global landscape, right? And so for me, it's at this stage, it's about how do we produce the talent that can reinvent civilization, starting in this country and then moving that around the world. So that's really what I'm interested in.
Yeah, and for me, it's understanding that minorities are the majority, and understanding that our ideas are great, not just for our culture and community, but they are for everyone. We can create a company and a product and a service that fits all cultures the same way, made in China, right? They can make anything for us and we buy it. And we can create these different, whether it's technology, hair companies, whatever it may be. It's not only for our community, but it's for all communities. And it's not just for, you know, and it's funny because anytime a Black person is making a company, tech especially, it's always like, are you a nonprofit because we're helping each other? Versus we can't be a for-profit, scalable product company. And it's always, when we're helping each other's community, as any other culture does, we always have to be low income or nonprofit or something of that nature, versus just a valuable service or product.
Right. That's a good point.
Yeah, I am a big proponent of technology, and I think technology is our future, and it's the future of everything that we do. And one of the things that I live my life by is that technology should be the great equalizer. It should provide opportunity for all of us. And as Black women, we have a unique perspective on the way the world works. We lead our families, we lead our communities, and everything about life going forward is going to be about technology. And if we are left out of that movement, if we are not part of that movement, then we are not doing our service to our culture and our community.
For the culture.
Always.
For the culture.
Always. We had that
culture.
conversation earlier today.
Yeah, for the culture. So, Shell, let's talk a little bit about BGV. Why did you start it? What made you think that there was a need for it? And then tell us kind of where BGV now is an organization.
Yeah, I've been asked this question a couple of times in terms of like, why did I start it? And the answer to that is something needed to be done, and I wanted to do something. And the more that I do something and other people do something, then hopefully eventually something will be done, right? So that is like that in a nutshell. Black Girl Ventures works to create access to capital for Black and brown women. And one of the solutions that we came up with is a pitch competition where we disrupt the current pitch competition. So for those who may or may not know what a pitch competition is basically Shark Tank with an audience.
Good. I was just gonna say, to describe what that is, right?
Yeah. And what we do is we involve the audience. So we throw out the judges. There's no judges. It's all community engagement. The community votes and the community asks the questions. We raise money at the door, so there's a ticket price. And then we give that money away to the founder. And it was a solution that, like a for us, by us solution. The premise comes from the early 1900s when Black people migrated to Harlem and white people raised the rent prices. And so we threw parties that we call rent parties to pay the rent. But these were not just like average parties. You know, these that had very fancy, intentional invites. And these are your African-American greats a part of these parties, like Duke Ellington, Fats Waller, Langston Hughes, helping to raise people's rent money, right? And so I'm like, hey, we're innovative. This is what we do. We come up with solutions. And so, of course, all the news is coming out. Black women are the fastest growing entrepreneurial segment in the country. We're receiving less than 1% of VC funds. And I'm like, hey, well, what can we do? I have a couple of ventures of my own, and I was head down working so hard with my ventures. And I'm like, hey, here's a solution. Let's just try this. Let's do this. And it just took off from there. And it's we can pop it up anywhere, right? Like we can put this, we're taking this around the country. So in terms of where we are now, we'll be in Philly on July 19th. We're launching here. I'm so excited to be like a part of the community here. Yeah, this is amazing. It's been really, really awesome. All the organizers here have welcomed us. And so I'm so excited. So you can apply online at blackgirlventures.com. That's a lie. blackgirlventures.org. I'll say that again. I'll say that again. I changed my own website. blackgirlventures.org. And to Tiffany's point, just the idea that like all of it, we have to be, because we're creating solutions for our community. We think community first. We are the solutions. Like solutions come from the community. They don't come from government. They don't come from corporations. And so it's time that starts to be a part of the conversation.
Absolutely. So Tiff, let's talk a little bit about stimulus, because you are getting a lot of traction with clientele, and what I love about the platform is that it's a connector, right? It connects corporations and it connects community, and it connects them to money, it connects them to funding. So talk to us about stimulus, and absolutely everyone on the panel should absolutely state your name before they speak, so that those who are not in the room who are listening can know who's speaking when they take their turn. But yeah, Tiff, just unpack us a little bit about what you're doing.
I forgot we were live, so yes.
I know, absolutely. We are live. WRD 900 AM 96.1 FM. Absolutely. I have to get used to that, Sarah. This is great.
So yes, I'm Tiffanie Stanard, founder and CEO of Stimulus. And Stimulus came about because of years with my previous ventures of working with large enterprises in government, and working on both ends, having a nonprofit or a for-profit company as clientele, but then also having the Comcast and the Microsofts as clientele, and the disconnect between them trying to serve their market but then not know how to talk to their market. So I would do a website for a nonprofit, and they would say, hey, you're working with Comcast, can you let me know, when a grant's available, or if they have money to sponsor an event. And on the other end, Comcast would say, hey, we have this certain amount of money left at the end of this quarter, and we don't use it, we lose it, and we have this grant coming out on May 1st, how do we connect with our community? So I started inadvertently connecting this community, and always knew when a certain project was coming out or a contract was coming out. And then personally experienced when I got connected to maybe the Internet Essentials department, and then I got connected to the Diversity and Inclusion department. I had to start the relationship over every single time.
Is that at Comcast?
Yes, at Comcast, because when large enterprises, you think they have everything under control, and you forget that each department has their own budget, they have their own team, they have their own network of people. So if they don't know about you, regardless if you're already working with them, you're starting that relationship over. So Stimulus came about really using machine learning to solve for the discovery of these companies they can't find, right? They can never find us. So it's discovery of these diverse organizations, creating that network, that database where they can see valuable companies, nonprofit or for-profit, that they can work with, but then also solving for collaboration between those departments, because if I'm eligible for a sponsorship for an event, I'm also eligible to be put on a panel. I'm also eligible for a contract within your company, but if those departments are not talking, you would not know about Stimulus. So it's really using our product and our platform intelligence dashboard to recommend this company to work with, to discover them, and to also evaluate the ROI on that relationship. So we've been working with Comcast, NBC is one of our biggest clients, Microsoft, AT&T, because diversity and inclusion is not also who you hire in your pipeline, it's who you invest in, it's who you sponsor, it's who you grant to, it's who you partner with. And that's like real diversity and inclusion. It's the whole three circles.
Business, right?
Exactly.
Absolutely, absolutely. I mean, and that's kind of why I think it's so important for you, Darla, to be in the position that you are with the Philly New Tech Meetup Group. I mean, just talk to us a little bit about what that group is, and why, I think that it's important that they are being led by women of color, but specifically by you, because of, where we see the city is moving absolutely in a realm of technology is driving the economy. It's the, engine of where the region is also progressing, whether it's science, whether it's tech, whether it's high tech. And the Philly New Tech Meetup kind of sits within that corridor space of bridging and also co-convening. So being led by the first woman of color is a big deal because that organization was mostly all led by white men.
Right.
And I think it'd be great for the audience to hear a little bit about what the significance is and what your vision is for the group.
Okay, thanks, Brigitte. In the spirit of full disclosure, I'm going to say that I've been a tech geek and a tech nerd my entire life. From when I could, program a computer, I started programming a computer. And as a young black woman, I didn't find a whole lot of people that looked like me who were into computers. And part of my personal goal is to make nerd or geek or whatever you want to call it not a bad word. It's a good thing, right? It's about learning. It's about using technology to keep us moving forward. As I mentioned earlier, everything we do these days touches technology, right? We've all got a cell phone that we didn't have 10 years ago. We have access to a lot of platforms that we didn't have 10 years ago. And 10 years from now, everything is going to look completely different. The goal of Philly New Tech Meetup is to show that new technology and bring it to the Philadelphia community, whether it's virtual reality goggles that can be used to see different parts of the world, whether it's Internet of Things, right, your Alexa app, your Google app, all of these things that weren't here before. We bring those technologies in Philly New Tech Meetup to show everyone what is possible. And it's supposed to really expand the opportunities and the mindset to say, okay, how can I use this in my personal life or in my business life? How can I turn this into a business potentially? Or just, I didn't even know this was there. Let me just learn about it. We've done cybersecurity. We've done meetings with some of the corporate people in the community. And the reason that I think it's important is because technology, as I mentioned before, is the great equalizer, and it should be available to everyone. So my vision for Philly New Tech Meetup, even though I was a geek my whole life, was to make it more inclusive and friendly, because even I had trouble walking into that room for the first time and looking around and seeing nobody who looked like me and nobody who would talk to me and people that might make me feel like I didn't know something. I've been working in tech for 20 years. I said, this is not right. I want to make sure that we are open to everyone, whether you are a newbie who doesn't know what all these weird acronyms are, or whether you're an experienced person looking to expand and your understanding of what's coming. That's my vision for Philly New Tech Meetup. The last meeting we had, so I took over in January, a young woman came up to me and she thanked me. And she said, I have always been too intimidated to come to these meetings before. She said, but you're making me feel so welcome and so interested and talking about tech in a way that everyone can understand, right? Not just the bits and the bytes and all the weeds, how everyone can understand. And she said, not only am I coming back, but I am bringing my friends. And so for me, that makes it all worthwhile because we are all here to learn.
Absolutely. Now, Dr. Jamie Bracey, I go back with Dr. Jamie Bracey for years. She is like one of my godmoms, I feel like, for the tech community because Dr. Bracey's commitment to improving quality of life through community economic development is found in her service. So she's on boards, like 10 boards, but I want to name a couple. One is the City of Philadelphia's Digital Literacy Alliance. One is the Pennsylvania Department of Education STEM Advisory Board. One is the PA Computer Science for All Initiative Board, the STEM Bees Girls in STEM Board, the KED ICT Advisory Board, the PA Black Women Leadership Council's Equity Investment Fund. Do you get what I'm saying? Like, this is a woman who walks and talks this subject. So I want to just know from Dr. Bracey, where are we, where you think we need to be, and what is your work at Temple doing to bridge the gap, not even just in tech, which we definitely know there's gaps, but about this issue with funding and Black women and where our place should be in it.
So I'm Jamie Bracey.
Thank you.
I am a cognitive psychologist, and my passion is around onboarding Black and brown children into science, technology, engineering, and math.
Right.
I have done that very successfully with a team of people over the last 8 years, moving Black boys primarily into engineering and computer science. I'm seeing the girls come on board as we figure out ways to make them more engaged in the technology conversation. So the elevation of that work and the STEM Bees in Ghana and the CAD ICT in Nigeria has been this sort of global ecosystem around strategy. Because often we focus really hard on these very important tactics how to start a company, how to raise some money, how to make sure we get our kids to school, how to make sure we create a marketable infrastructure. So the Center for Inclusive Competitiveness is the nation's first center that's designed to make us connect to the innovation economy.
Okay.
It's more than the pathways that we've been working on to prove that we could do the work. That horse has left the barn. People know that we can do computer science,
Right.
that we're not new to this, that we come
Right.
from cultures that have done this all along.
Right.
But the new game now is that we have not necessarily been competitive. And so this
Competitive
morning,
in what way?
we haven't been competitive socially, we
Okay.
haven't been competitive academically,
Okay.
and we have not been competitive economically.
Got it.
So the center's mandate is to secure the investment resources to support the pathways in, and I think we have 100% retention rate of black and brown children who've come through my pre-college pathways. The issue is, do they know how to then go either work a job or start a business? And so this is
Got
the
it.
center's mandate is to develop those entrepreneurial pathways after you get through the college pathway, if you decide to go that way.
Okay.
You don't have to go that way.
Right.
We're looking at micro-credentials, but I think the important thing is where we are as black women in this discussion around how our communities are considered. I was in DC for the last 4 days at the nation's largest conference on diversity and inclusion. And diversity and inclusion right now really means white women and the rest of y'all.
Right. Pretty
Yes,
much.
thank you.
Yes.
And
Yes.
and so
So true.
the competitiveness, so, I'll be representing Pennsylvania in the upcoming White House conversation on STEM policy.
Nice.
So that means if we don't understand how the policy has money behind it to give us access, that's what helps make us competitive. So a lot of I have sons, I have a daughter, we have heart children. We all understand that if they don't understand the political implication of not participating in this process, got us this clown we're dealing with right now.
Right.
But I enjoy the fact that he's in office. I enjoy the fact that he is in office. And I enjoy it because it has uncovered a whole lot of mess underneath that we need to deal with internally. That is the misalignment of our children in social service occupations
Right.
and criminal justice occupations. Our babies want to help the community, but it may be that you can help the community by starting a company that starts some jobs.
Right.
So the misalignment right now of black children and their inability to pay the debt load at these universities is because they're in the wrong place. Too many are in the wrong place. Yes, black women own 61% of the companies across the United States. 97% of them are sole proprietorships. We are the hustlingest women on
Right.
the planet.
Right.
Yes, we are.
But I think, again, our position around tech access, these are tactics because at the end of the day, we have to start this competitive mindset. It's okay to compete and win.
Right.
Right. I think it's important, though, that hustler mentality, right? Like 61%, but they're all sole proprietorship. So basically what you're trying to insinuate is that they're not corporations, right? They're not large
They're not
businesses.
high growth enterprises.
They're not high growth enterprises getting funded 10x, basically,
That's right.
right?
That's
And
right.
that's kind of where we're trying to push that button. But just real quick, I just wanted to clarify something with Temple. Because Temple kind of sometimes, it struggles in its way of being inclusive and making sure that they are spreading the wealth and spreading the access to particularly around the communities that they are situated within. So was this an initiative that Temple said we need a center for inclusiveness? Or was this Dr. Bracey saying, Temple, you need a center for inclusiveness? I can just look at your face.
So I would say that this is my decade at this university. I have looked at it really with a strategic eye and with a lot of love for what I've been able to do there.
Yeah.
But in terms of its ability, this university, like many universities, needs to become a good community partner.
Yes.
You have to be an anchor institution. I'm not shy about
Absolutely.
saying that.
Yeah.
There are much better ways to have approached and engaged the conversation around inclusive economic development.
Right.
I think that what has happened though, once I pitched the idea, it was a black woman who's the number 2 person at Temple
Okay.
who invested in this center.
Got
And
it.
I'm based at a College of Engineering. They really were not hearing this.
That's all I had to know. Because that just tells a story. Right. Because it's just like how we have this conversation with diversity and inclusion. It starts at the top. Right. And if you have people who are in those places and spaces and positions that are able to make those decisions about where money is being allocated and where the focus of study or research is being done, and those spaces are, of course, inclusive, and they are of representation, then it's automatically going to be trickled down into those institutions, and that's what I'm saying. And that's what happened at Temple.
That's what has happened now is the Center for Inclusive Competitiveness gets launched out of the College of Engineering. Yeah. Within 2 weeks, I had 5 universities, 3 HBCUs called to join in board.
Yes.
And so the idea was that Temple is catalyzing this. Yep. But the issue is, can we compete in areas? And I'm going to go back to my initial conversation and my love and passion for all of us. Right. From the world I'm in, the number one issues that are facing us are global climate change. And what are the technology companies that can be launched to deal with cleaning the water, growing food in engineered indoor growing environments? To be quite frank, white boys are taking this. They are. You cannot misunderstand how much revenue there is in transforming these warehouses into engineered growing environments. That's engineering, that's computer science. And I will shift, and so the universities that are piling in to jump on board with this inclusive competitiveness thing, they understand that diversity and inclusion language really is code word for, okay, we said it, we checked it off. Right. Let's keep it moving. But to the extent that we say we have value as women and as leaders with our men in balance within our communities, the number one opportunities for us to apply technology is in these spaces where I was with USDA yesterday, NASA sending in information. Can you produce food, energy, water? Right.
Food, energy, and water. Yeah. And we're going to go right there. And I want to just shift the gears to that because I think that's kind of where there's a missed opportunity for either institutions or investors to look at the bottom line dollar just value that women of color bring to the economy. Because I think that's an important missing component that I think if anyone was an investor, they would say, oh, I need to be investing all my money in Black women. But before we go there, because I want to push that off to Shelly, just reintroducing ourselves. I'm Brigitte Daniel. I'm Executive Vice President of Wilco Electronic Systems, and we are broadcasting live from the Free Library of Philadelphia, 1901 Vine Street for the WRD Wilco panel for Philly Tech Week called Sisters in the Struggle, Unleashing the Power of Black Women Tech Entrepreneurs. Please come down and join us. The house is packing, it's filling, the conversation is stirring, it's moving. We're about to get back into a whole new slew of new topics for this, but this is a great topic, this is a great panel, and we are definitely still open, so please come on down and join us, or listen in at 96.1 FM, 900 AM WRD. So Shelly Bell, hit it off. Black women statistics.
So I am just like, Dr. Bracey is moving me right now. Like everything inside of me just wants to like jump up and start like clapping like one of those memes. Like yes. Just so much. I think I definitely want to talk about the competitive landscape, and I feel like this is a conversation that we do not have. We talk about the statistics. We talk about how things are behind, what the struggle is, and a lot of it comes back to capital. And I think that, and I was having a conversation earlier with Angel Rich about how there's other capital to talk about, right? So there's financial capital, there's social capital, there's emotional capital, and in this case, academic capital, navigational capital, right? And so when we look at the competitive landscape and where Black women are falling in that and the things that we're creating, and the conversations that are had with our community about what we can do, right? Like who is constantly having a conversation about, hey, start a business in food, energy, or water, like start that business, right? And I think this is where, in the conversation of venture capitalists and angel investors, where they're saying to me, like, we don't know any VC backable businesses. We don't know any venture capital backable businesses because that's a certain kind of business, right? And not everybody's starting those. And so it's like, oh, that's where the whole idea of like, oh, well, this could probably be a nonprofit idea. And it's like, no, this could be more than a nonprofit idea. Right. I think with Black Girl Ventures, at first that was a lot of our push. People were telling us, oh, this should be a nonprofit idea. And I'm like, why? I'm about to bring in a bunch of Black women ventures that have businesses already that are gonna make money. Why wouldn't you invest in that? This is the gift that keeps on giving, Like, there's no reason why this should be a nonprofit. Now, we can have a nonprofit arm and for our social good, because this is all about social good. And I think more conversation needs to come into play about mission-oriented venture-backable businesses and what that means, because I think that's an entire arena that people kind of want to push under the rug. Again, when you're a minority starting a business, it's like, oh, like, you know, become this nonprofit. It's like, no, I'm just mission-driven, right? And at this point, we've become positioned in a way where it's like, oh, I don't know what black women businesses are. It's like, yeah, you do. Black Girl Ventures. Like, that's what we are. Come get us, come talk to us. And the more, as we grow in visibility, the more we're going to see that happening. And the conversation that I want to be having internally is competitive landscape. Who are we competing with? I was a teacher I've lived many lives, but I was a teacher for a while. And I used to tell my students, like, you're not competing with the people in this room. Stop looking at each other saying, oh, I got an A and you got a B. Like, that's not what it's about. You're competing globally. When they're talking about the education system in the U.S., they're talking globally. They're not talking about, like, right, you know, in your little area, right? And so I think, like, having more conversation about what it means to be competitive, what does that look like when we step back and look at the whole of things. And some people are looking at the whole of things, and we're not always looking at the whole of things. And that's where the competitive landscape lies. It lies in the entire world. And we're like, oh, but in my neighborhood, though. You know, it's like being in the lobby at a hotel and being like, oh, yeah, we made it. We're good here.
The rest of the world is looking at us, and they are targeting and segmenting the markets based on our number one value in the world, that we consume everything and produce nothing. And that's not just an American black thing. That's true. That's why when I went to Nigeria and go back to Ghana, this is very, very clearly around the world. The continent has been recolonized, if you all don't know that.
You know what?
But where we are right now, in terms of technology access, so the largest blockchain technology initiative is the CAD ICT hub that I'm the advisor to in Nigeria. And so when India dropped its currency, it's that blockchain team that put this currency technology in place.
And that's in Nigeria.
That's in Nigeria, but they're taking over India. So this is where everybody's not sending a chain letter. To be quite honest. But I think this idea of what is the competitive landscape with our corporate partners, and why are they looking at us the way they are, is because our language has not changed. Our language has not changed, and we are not fighting to say we are going to invest in ourselves, but more than that, here's the value proposition we give to you by having this ecosystem that is global.
Right.
And I think that's part of, when you have kids in North Philly and they've never been out the neighborhood, talking to them about competing against somebody around the rest of the world, they're not feeling that until you show them, let's do a walking scan and see how many of these companies we walk by are owned by anybody you know in this community. That brings it home.
No, that's true. I think it's also just adding to the fact that people are trying to create sexy tech versus tech that is food, water, energy. One of the conversations I had in Turkey when we went to Turkey a couple weeks ago was we was talking about toilets and porta potties and the billion-dollar company.
Why'd you guys go to Turkey? Like, what was that conference
So we were
about?
selected, Shelly and I.
And this is Tiffanie Stanard.
Tiffanie Stanard, Stimulus. We were selected as United States delegates.
Nice.
To travel to Turkey to represent global entrepreneurship. So it was in Istanbul, Turkey, and they focused on building one global ecosystem. So a little over 100 United States delegates, and then over 170 countries were there. And the focus was, what is everyone doing in their different countries, and how do we learn, bring it back to our countries, become speakers in those countries. And one of the conversations that we had right before we left, and this lady kept putting out signage about like porta potties and toilets and all of that.
It was called the toilet board.
Yeah, the toilet board. And like all the different stuff you can do while you're on the toilet. It was crazy. But that's $1 billion company, and people forget that energy, food, like all waste management is $1 billion company.
Huge.
And unfortunately, sometimes, you know, people of color, you want to create that sexy technology that's an app that, you know, you can go across the street fast or whatever. But it's not something that's always scalable, and it's not something that's going to generate jobs, and it's not something that's going to help your community. So if you're thinking of creating a company, don't just think of an app that you want people to download, but you're thinking of food and energy that's scalable, that no matter when the trend stops 20, 30, 40 years from now, it's going to matter.
Still going to need it.
Right.
You're still going to need it locally, globally, it does not matter. And I think, but it's also, as you say, if you're in North Philly, you're not thinking, oh, I want to be in toilets, but toilets going to have you retire and do basketball or whatever it is you want to do and go back to the sexy tech, if that's what you're
But
looking to do.
There's sexy tech in food. 3D
Yeah,
printing
it could
food
be.
is what's happening right now. Can you
Right.
design and build 3D printers for food?
Wow.
NASA's
Yeah.
already invented that. Did you ever see the replicator in Star Trek? And how you said what you wanted? That's already
Yeah.
here. They're
Yeah,
selling
yeah.
that for
South
$4,000.
Using that.
So
I'm
there-
doing it with bread.
There's a lot of sexy tech out
Right.
here that's in these spaces that, again, investment to launch them.
Right.
What's the number? And we talked about this morning. I'm sorry, Darla, I know you're going to have something to say. But this idea about where, and I look at the global landscape and I look at where we put our money right now and I look at the misalignment and then I say, okay, where's the gap analysis? What is out there we could invest in that we would like to do? And so we are looking at, when we talk about food, like I said, urban ag, vertical farming, the policy has just been written because the average age of a white farmer is 62 and they're not being replaced. The globe is going to look at 10 billion people by 2050, which means you cannot put all of that land in play. That's why Nigeria has been here 9 times since last July, meeting with the farming folks we've hooked them up with to talk about how do you grow inside because you can't put enough land. So they had a brother from DC fly to Nigeria, sitting next to the people from Spain and India talking about his GIS systems on the tractors that are going to be put in play to put more land in use. You've got to have, but in the urban centers, everybody's not moving out to the farms. Ain't nobody trying to be a farmer. I can't get engineering students to want to be farmers. Right. But if you can engineer these LED lights with solar array panels, build the solar array panels, and start food inside, and then manufacture that to go to market, that's a company. That's productivity. That's the whole value chain, right? And so that's the entrepreneurship we're talking about. The other one I think that's specific to black women. This has been bothering me for years. And you know, I can't get my mind around it, so you guys can help me with this.
Tell them something.
This mess about us and black hair care products.
I know.
So
but I get it though.
But I get that China is now trying to come directly to black women to bypass Korea. So we exported all of this information that said we are the world's #1 consumer.
Right.
That's what went out with hip hop. Hip hop went out, and so did this conversation that we buy everything from everybody. So when they came back in, how do you manufacture hair? That is a byproduct of the ethylene gas that comes out of fracking natural gas. So they're gonna drill their gas, but what's happening is they produce this little amount of chemical. That chemical then goes into a vat with a few more chemicals, and they spin it like it's cotton candy, and they produce hair fibers. It is not that hard, but we are prevented from going into that business. Not only to produce and manufacture, I don't mind putting on my hair hat. There are days when I want to wear it. The issue is I should have the opportunity to teach my children chemistry to produce those products to where we spend way too much money
Yeah.
with someone else.
Right.
And so again, that is a chemical-based manufacturing opportunity that allows you to also create distribution channels. That's another part of the economy, right?
But Dr. Bracey, when I've seen black hair care companies trying to be started by the woman that actually consume and are the buyers and what the hair is for, they can't even get funding because the investors don't see the
understand the market.
value of a multi-billion-dollar business of black hair care.
China sees it now, though.
China, but I'm talking about, okay, yes,
China will come
and
into
India.
the United States right now because China now owns the eastern seaboard of Africa. Be clear, when Obama went to Africa, he went to Ghana. He made sure he didn't go to Kenya because China had already put a stake in the ground that we now own this because we have so many people we need to come outside of where we are. So they're saying China now recruits more black kids to their graduate programs in the United States and Britain. You have to know that the world is changing. How are we viewed? We will be viewed with much more respect. They do not respect the fact that we're not coming to them saying, hey, we have a micro-manufacturing plant, we have the whole ecosystem, we want to produce our own hair care products. Will you help us with the distribution chain? They want that relationship.
China does.
China does.
But not in the United States of
And
America.
I'm
That
saying-
is Black woman headquarters. Like,
And
we
that's
are
where-
here, Black American women are
That's
the ones
right.
that are really doing that buying of the
So,
hair care
so you
products.
bring in Chinese investors like everybody else does and
Yeah.
pitch the
Ah,
same
okay.
idea.
There it is.
We don't have to
Okay.
go somewhere else. Come back,
Oh,
come
okay.
right
So
here.
now we're going to go outside of the country.
Get
and that we are
investors.
Bring it
in
back.
to get the investment.
Because
Yeah.
what happens
That's
if Black women
interesting.
stop buying stuff?
Right, because we're consuming it.
Right.
So I would just say that's a huge opportunity for us if we
Right.
think global but act local.
Right.
Well, where
So-
do you? Okay, I'm sorry.
No,
I was gonna
so-
say, Darla, yeah.
So in that same vein with opportunity, as we're listening to these wonderful, things that Dr. Bracey has said here, a lot of people may be asking the same thing I'm asking. Well, how do you do that? How do you
Right.
know this? How do you know what's coming? Well, two things. One is organizations like Philly New Tech Meetup. This is the kind of tech that we bring to the membership to show what is possible. You come and you learn how things are done, how you can make these kinds of things happen, what's going on in the global marketplace. You have to integrate with these types of organizations like Philly New Tech Meetup to see how to do that. And then two, I love the conversation around students, and I love the conversation around schools, and I love that we're getting technology into our into that pipeline to grow people. But my personal passion is the people that are here right now. If you're in the workforce right now, you might be working a job where you're not expanding, you're not getting any new skills, you're in a corporate job, you're in something where you haven't had the opportunity to learn these things and have hands-on things. You might not be an engineer, you don't know how that works, but you've got an idea because you're in the community and you see the problem. You're just not sure how to solve it. You may have the idea, but not sure how to make those chemicals or how to grow hair or where to go. And that's one of the reasons why I started Sweat Equity, which is the company that I run. And basically what it's doing is it's designed to bring together different skill sets in a less risky environment. So you don't have to quit your job to start a startup or to work with a startup. What you're doing is you're finding people who want to do things in a less risky way, right? Everybody can't quit their job and say, oh, gee whiz, I'm gonna, travel to Nigeria or do these things, even though it's a good idea. So, or you're not an engineer. So you find these people to partner with, and you do it in your second time, right? We all know that woman who goes to the church and who can cook and feed the masses with the 2 fishes, right? Because you can stretch that food, right? So how do we turn that into a business? How do we solve that? How do we bring on all those other educational people that we need? It's about the community, and we as Black women need to partner with other people so that we know, right? So no one knows everything all by themselves. When these white businesses start, they don't go, oh, gee, I'm going to start a business all by myself, and I'm going to program it all by myself, and I'm going to market it all by myself. Heck no. They bring other people in who are experts in that area, and that's what we need to do as the Black community. We all have things that we can contribute, and if we pull them all together, we can start these kinds of businesses that you're talking about. You can find someone who's an accountant. You can find someone who's good at marketing. You can find these engineers who can take an idea from your mind to fruition into a product development environment globally. I've spent 20 years working in these global environments. I know lots of people who have these global skills, but they're trapped in these golden handcuff kind of jobs where they don't feel like, I can't bet the tuition or my mortgage payment on going to a startup. But if we pool our resources together, if we interact with people like these who know what they're doing and who have the knowledge, then that's the power of our community. Everybody else does it. We need to do it as well.
That's true.
I feel like we've been saying that, though, for a long time. And for our community, it's just harder for us to do that. Whatever that's history has precluded us and has chained us in ways that we just don't always build and grow and come together.
Right.
We've been talking about, your Moja for since Kwanzaa even started. Like, we get it. We know what we need to do. It's just very hard, particularly to come together. But the interesting thing, though, is the Black woman is the glue, the thread, the needle, all of it for the whole community. We are what drives it. We are what pushes it. We are what keeps it together. And I just still don't understand why we are still the most devalued. Because those resources that, Darla, you were talking about, what we need to come and build enterprises that are then funded or creating jobs, which is what any city in America wants to do, what should be the focus, be competitive. For some reason, we are still not able to get people to say, oh yeah, black woman doing it, absolutely. Not even just because they know that they're going to get the job done, but because what they're presenting, their marketplace, what their business is, what their idea is, it just comes with less credibility just off the bat. Right. Just off the bat. So, before we delve back into that, I just want to put that out there because, we have a really special time right now in the country. What happened earlier or last year? Didn't we save a whole state from getting some person voted in?
Alabama.
Because black women came out and started, and started like voting for people, for that person, the other person. That's power. We're voting. We vote. We go out and to me, that's currency and commerce. So when we're doing that, all these social movements like Black Lives Matter started by sisters.
Can we stay there? Can we stay right there for a second?
Sisters.
Can we stay right there for a second and just pull back?
And that's technology platforms. So that's why I'm like, we need to unpack what that is and why we are not getting our due.
This is Shelly Bell for Black Growth Ventures. And this is a great segue into the Kanye West interesting conversation that has happened over the last.
As we should, right? Because it's. Let's talk about it.
Yeah, let's talk about it. If you have not heard or do not know, or have not seen, Kanye West had a fairly interesting conversation with TMZ and a woman named Candace Owens. Who I was not very familiar with before this. So I was thinking about this on the drive here this morning, that my response to that is, we don't need a hero. My article title would be, we don't need a hero, the things that Candace and Kanye should have said, right? I think that's maybe what they were trying to say, I don't know. But the conversation that Candace had was fairly interesting, where she was trying to or attempting to pull back the layers on how systematically laws have been created to hold us back. But I think, of course, Kanye with the louder voice and us not really being able to dig through the one comment about slavery being a choice. Like when you strike something that emotional, it steers everything in a whole different direction. And at that point, we can't hear each other anymore, right? And the focus on classism is real. Like, I think we do spend a lot of time on race, which is a thing. Like, I'm definitely not saying that it's not. But we don't spend enough time on classism. We don't spend enough time on how things are broken up in that way. Even as a founder, right? Just like... The levels of hierarchy and what it means to, be walking into a room with a VC who is God in that point, in that space, right?
And it looks nothing like you.
Looks nothing like you, exactly. and especially nothing like me. Like with this hair and and these tattoos, it's like, who are you? And
just
why
for the
would I take
audience,
you serious?
Miss Shelly Bell is adorned in beautiful locks, multicolored. With her bodacious, beautiful lips and her tattoos that adorn her body. Yes. And she probably would not be accepted by a standard venture capital person.
I mean, I've had a white man straight say to me, like, I don't understand you.
Yeah.
Like, I don't understand you. Like, and this is not, we haven't even had a conversation.
Right.
This is just you looking at me. Right. You don't understand me. Right. And those are great places for conversation. Right. And I think that, it is good that things like what Kanye did start conversation, but sometimes it gets overshadowed. Whatever he was trying to say, God
I don't
bless
think
you,
he
brother.
knows what he was trying to say.
Right. But ultimately, we do need to have a conversation about class. We do need to have a conversation about systematic oppression. We do need to address that policy-wise, right? We do need to be having more conversation about how we advocate for policies outside of just voting. Like, how do we get together and actually advocate for policy? And I think sometimes there's a fear there with being attached to like a particular political party, or because there's politics within that, where it's like, oh, you're attached to this person, now you're viewed as being attached to everything they believe. And so it's so hard for an entrepreneur to even try to advocate for policy, because you want to remain objective and you want to remain agnostic. You want to stay away from that. It's kind of hard. I think if we could get together and come up with the policies, ultimately, like I said earlier, none of this is going to be solved by these talking heads and these people in corporations, and it's us. It's the community level, and we are doing it, and it is happening. So when a person like Kanye can get up and like say one thing and then like almost like just overshadow all the work that's being done, and like the brother at TMC was just saying, like there are people working on these issues every day. It's not fair for you with your loud, obnoxious voice to say that it's not happening. It's not. We're not getting the coverage. You know, like they're not putting Black Girl Ventures on TMC to say, hey, how many Black women are you funding? Right?
That's true.
However, flip side of that, I'm just gonna start like calling all media companies and just responding, because who are these people that come out of the shadows? Who is Candace Owens to be making these statements? Who is Ryan Seacrest to be hosting a show? You know what I mean? Like, who were these people?
All the way. No, that's true.
These people were just audacious. They just stepped up and said, I'm gonna say this, and you're gonna hear it, and had the right connection to the right media outlet. So it's like, hey, everybody with the great voices, just start saying stuff to people. Just start showing up at the news stations like, listen, I got a response.
Give them
You know,
opinion.
like, you know, we like, it's just time for community organizers to no longer just kind of be like, no, but we gonna keep working on our community. I'm gonna work on my community, but I'm trying to amplify my voice too.
As well.
Right? So we have something to say, and Kanye ain't the only, you know, game in town. All right? We all have opinions. We're all working. We have strong, like, everything you just said should have been on, everything that Dr. Bracey said should be on TMZ. That's the conversation we need to be having.
That's
you
true.
know?
That's true.
So, yeah,
I think you said it. Amplify your voice is probably really amplify Black women's voices. There was a hashtag that went out after that election took place and was like, everyone should just trust a Black woman. Hashtag trust Black women.
Trust Black women.
Because I think the significance of that is, you know, not about some Black girl magic, but really, because it's not magic, right? It's actual real impact taking place that is changing lives, that really, that's almost the only voice sometimes those lives even have. So, you know, for us, I think it's critical that we propel and amplify the people that are doing the work on the ground. And for what I've seen in my life, and as a Black woman, I'm not just being biased, but I see more Black women carrying the bail, as one of my cohorts like to say. Brother Taib Smith, I'm not carrying that bail anymore. You know, that's a real thing.
They can't describe us. That's why they call them the magic.
Like,
they don't have a word for our power.
That's absolutely part of it too.
We don't know what word to call that.
Yeah.
Like, it is just what we are. It's not athletic, so it's not like, oh, they worked out a lot. You know, they were running a lot in Africa. You know, like they don't have a word for what Black women have historically done from the root, from the beginning of time until now. It's just inside of us in a cultural way that people have not been able to describe. And so magic is just the only word. It's like this fantasy kind of thing that is just like, oh, it's magical. Like, no, it's
real
official.
work.
It's real. You know, it's real. It's real.
I think there's an interesting topic I'd like to just unpack with you all before we, as we segue kind of into the last kind of 15 minutes of the actual, you know, panel, because I think it's interesting, this social impact space that I think a lot of Black women are going to be playing a larger role in, which I think kind of goes to that food, energy, water conversation, but it also goes into how we can back in inclusion and get the funding that I think we need to get if it's housed in a social impact space, because all of you on this panel are doing something that's socially impact related. So before we do, and then to like go into that segue, I just want to just again say we're broadcasting live from the Free Library of Philadelphia, 1901 Vine Street for the WRD Wilco panel, Sisters in the Struggle, Unleashing the Power of Black Women Tech Entrepreneurs. I'm Brigitte Daniel, Executive Vice President of Wilco Electronic Systems and founder of Mobilette. And we are very, very happy to have this panel to talk about this subject matter, because we're in a city that is minority majority. We've all heard it, we've all seen it, but it's real. 47% African American, or is it 44? Either way, it's 4 T's, right? I think it's 35% Caucasian, 11% Latino, and maybe 7% Asian. So basically, the larger pot of our city is in a minority majority state. And that means that Philadelphia has to do much better in making sure that that minority and majority is in also being able to be included in the prosperity that is clearly taking place in the city of Philadelphia right now. We all feel it, and we all see it. We're all trusting the process. We're in the, you know, we're the Sixers are what? World champion Eagles, what?
Yeah.
Amazon's
killing it.
looking at Philly and we're top, what?
Yeah.
Innovation districts are building all across the city, come on. 27 cranes in the city, absolutely. The city is rising. We need to be a part of that inclusive prosperity. That's exactly how we win, and I think this is the type of conversation that kind of goes into what is a needed focus that I see the government really kind of pushing. The city's doing its thing, it's turning, but there needs to be a little bit more of a push from different areas, which is why we're also thankful that you guys are doing what you're doing. But definitely wanted to open it up to questions in about a couple minutes, but I wanted to just kind of see where we are on social impact. Is that a space, is that an area for Black women to gain this power back, since we are, again, driving e-commerce, driving social media justice, creating the fastest group of entrepreneurs in the country? So obviously we're an economic engine of some sort. How do we get that money, that economy, that funding back into the ventures that we would like to build? Dr. Bracey, Tiffanie, or Darla, absolutely.
We are definitely for the social impact. We're a social impact company. This is Tiffanie Stanard from Stimulus.
And can you just describe what is social impact
Yes.
for our audience?
So social impact, it's identified in a couple different ways, but it's definitely a company that is a for-profit company with a mission. And you can be a B Corp, which focuses on your for-profit scalable company, and you have a social mission that's similar to a nonprofit, but you are focused on profitability. And people think to be social impact, and even to be a nonprofit, that you need to be broke to be a nonprofit, or you need to be broke to be in social impact. And you can scale, build a product, and still help your community, because if your light's off, you can't help nobody else. So at the end of the day, you can socially impact your community locally and nationally, and really focus on building a product or service that is scalable, but you're socially worried about the people around you, and you're worried about impacting them. And it's not just about the bottom dollar, that's a part of it, but you can do that and help people. Financial literacy, as we spoke to Angel Rich earlier in her for-profit company, and you can financially help people because it's a business, but still socially impact low income and understand helping them doesn't take away from your money. So at the end of the day, social impact is the buzzword, and everybody's trying to do impact investing. But when they think of it unfortunately, for Black communities, they look at it as charity instead of good business.
Right.
And it is good business to help your community, because you're building corporations, your government within this city, but you're not serving the community where you live at. So how do you expect to build a product, and the people that is buying this product, you're not serving their community? So if they don't want to live there or play there, why would they want to work there and build a business? So it all goes hand in hand at the end of the day. So even with Stimulus, as we focused on not only making sure that the communities are understanding what the corporations and government are doing, and vice versa, like we're helping them not only with brand equity, but what they're doing with their employees, because the employees want to work there. Employees now are not staying at companies longer than 5 years, because if they're not happy in their city, they're leaving their city. So it all goes hand in hand at the end of the day. Profitability and scalability goes together, and impacting your community goes with that as well.
I just want to highlight, there's a lot of events taking place in Philly Tech Week. We are excited to also have Angel Rich, who is the young Black woman that Forbes magazine named the next Steve Jobs. She has created a company called the Wealth Factory that created a game about how to build your credit score. Social impact all day. So she's actually in our listening audience in the room right now, but she's going to be speaking tonight at the 4th Annual Women in Tech Soiree, hosted by Mogulette and Stimulus at Sierra Interactive at 1033 North 2nd Street. And that's an event that you want to go to hear Angel, because she is a voice that is also positioning not just even Black founders in tech with her hashtag Black Tech Matters, which I love, but she's also really positioning about the Black dollar and being able to know the wealth of the Black community and how they can use their inherent ability to communize, to convene, to solve issues within the community that can also be economically put back into the communities that we're solving those problems for. And that's what I think this social impact investing really probably should be steering. But if you want to come here, Angel, will be here later tonight, but I wanted to give her a little shout out because she's in the room and we're thankful that she's here. But if anyone else wants a little talk about that, because there's a big push. Venture philanthropy is going to be the future of investing. I mean, if you don't know anyone's read this article, BlackRock CEO Lawrence Fink. BlackRock is a venture fund, one of the largest in the world, actually. And the CEO Lawrence Fink wrote an article earlier this year saying he probably will not be investing in companies that do not have a social purpose. Right. That's a big deal for him to say that, because I think that's going to then signal to other funds that we have to solve our own problems together, because we're not going to get any support probably from the federal government at this point in time. So we have to have a new localism of how we're bringing community, corporations, academia, community all together to resolve social ills. And in Philadelphia, we're doing all this great work. We're doing all these great events. We're trusting the process. Like I said, we're champions, but yet we have this poverty rate that's 26%.
We are the biggest poor city.
26%, biggest, largest, poorest city in the country. The only one under us is Detroit. So all this development, all this innovation, but yet around the communities, it's still very, very underserved and underrepresented and underfunded, and it's poverty. So we have to be impact investing. And I think that's the way that we can kind of segue into Black women also getting their due share. So I don't know if anyone wants to open that up, but I would love to kind of unpack that as we kind of close out and open it up to the audience.
I'd like to comment on that, on the social impact and impact investing that's starting to happen. So this is Jamie Bracey, and I run Temple's Center for Inclusive Competitiveness, which is actually a social purpose business venture. It is required to secure the investment to create the pathways and the economic venture capital to support what I'm saying is important. And in impact investing, we have 3 foundations that will be here in Philadelphia in May alone to talk about investing in sustainability. So when we're talking about social impact and social venture capital, we're talking about the evidence and the economic data identifying the gaps in what's available, as well as the talent that's available to fill those gaps. That's where venture capitalists are looking for. Do you have the capacity to produce the talent to close the gaps that your evidence is saying is there? And so we have to be mindful that our intuition is very powerful. We can look around and see what we need, but we need to also figure out ways, and the space that I'm in academia helps me go back to my corporate side to come back and say, well, look, this is what the market looks like. This is what the market will bear, and this is the talent that we have. Yes, Amazon was here. Brigitte and I were part of the pitch teams to talk to them. Their number one issue was, does the community have the capacity to support 50,000 jobs to come here? I was in D.C. D.C. thinks they've got it.
Of course they do.
Right. They do.
Yeah, we do.
I always say, whatever.
Whatever. I love y'all, though. I love y'all. I love it here.
But every city thinks they have it, right?
Everybody.
But who really has it?
Who
really has it? I think Philadelphia actually could have it. We have the bones in place, Dr. Bracey. We got the assets.
I think that we should have it. I think that what we have done, though, is, again, we have to pitch the conversation that we're we're a World Heritage city that's super poor. And we have not discussed how
say that again?
We are a World Heritage city.
A World Heritage City.
World Heritage City. We're identified around the world as one of the premier cities for culture and heritage. And we have the largest poverty rate. So that means that
it just doesn't add up.
Yeah, it doesn't make sense.
It doesn't
Amazon,
add up.
whether they should come here because we're bad like that.
We are.
But we have not articulated how all these assets that we have should be used to mitigate all that poverty. And the reentry that's coming in.
That's the missing piece.
That's what people are looking at.
That's the missing piece about Philadelphia. How do we activate and get down this poverty with all our cultural assets? We have a bench of assets this city has.
Well, this is, people talk about STEM and our innovation. Look, if nothing else, I want to go back to this, how we're perceived outside of the United States, because it influences the policy and the actions people are taking economically around social impact investing. So we are not, our issues around race are irrelevant to a lot of people around the rest of the world, particularly people who are coming here. And so when we focus on that as a social policy People are coming here like, I need to feed my family.
Right.
There's 1 billion of us. There's 300 million of y'all. Y'all do your thing about that while we're creating companies to feed y'all. So the social
Food,
impact,
energy, and water.
yeah, we are
Food, energy, and water.
and all that, to Tiffany's point, is around, it is around sustainability. It is around, can you not only start a business, but can you sustain it over time?
Yeah.
Food, and like I said, whether you are microprinting something, whether you are manufacturing it, there are opportunities for us to have low-hanging fruit that don't require a bachelor's degree, a master's degree. Some of it is just plain common sense and some technical training to get people employed quickly. There are people who want to give contracts for, have you ever heard of meals ready to eat?
Yeah.
Why aren't we just producing something with all of this land that is, Detroit is making it happen, Cleveland's making it happen. So again, we have the assets of the land.
The poverty pits, they're monetizing their poverty pits. In
Detroit
the land.
and Cleveland, I think Councilman Clark told me I need to fly to Cleveland. I did one better and went there virtually, and they were talking to me. The money and the policy that those cities have put in place to grow inside their cities and then manufacture products to send out is phenomenal. Energy or
Really?
microgrids.
Cleveland and
Detroit.
Detroit.
They are
have
not the
to.
same.
They have to.
They gentrified those cities
Okay.
to here and back.
Okay.
Folks came in, bought up all that land,
Oh.
and then
okay.
converted it all. So we
Okay.
are sitting here on top of land banks, land trusts. We have access
We
to
have a lot of
resources.
land
Yeah.
So when Amazon or any other company comes
Okay.
here and looks at us, how creative are we being?
Got it.
They want to bring their companies not just to where they have the talent. They will put up with us if we look like we're being creative. So social impact investing will be, the money will come in, and I know I'm going for 25 million. So the money will come in where it looks like we know how to leverage our assets inside the Black community, inside the Latino community, inside the white communities that want to partner.
Right.
If we have that conversation, then you look like a World Heritage city that has some sense. If you don't, then we are going to continue to be unsustainable and unattractive,
Right.
even though the Eagles did win.
Right. Right.
You know the
right.
Eagles did
Absolutely
win.
true.
Exactly.
Absolutely true. Well, let's throw it out to the audience to kind of just get some feedback, some questions in, and we can kind of go from there. I'd like to, again, just make sure that everyone knows that we are broadcasting live from the Free Library of Philadelphia, 1901 Vine Street, for the WRD Wilco panel, Sisters in the Struggle, Unleashing the Power of Black Women Tech Entrepreneurs. Please tune in if you're listening to 96.1 FM, 900 AM, or again, we probably have about another 45 minutes left in the panel, so if you'd like to come in, that'd be great. So is there a microphone that we're giving? Okay, great. We have one question first. Miss Angel Richin herself, thank you. Yeah, definitely look forward to your question.
Thank you, ladies. This has been fantastic. I have a question mainly for Tiffanie and Dr. Bracey, but you all can feel free to jump in. And it's on social impact. And the long and short of it is, how do you all feel as though that we can maintain boundaries around social impact? And the reason I say this is because diversity has turned into white women. And I was in basically an accelerator where essentially it was for diverse entrepreneurs for social impact, and an Asian guy won for reducing the interest rate on payday loans. And that was his social impact. Instead of 700%, he was offering 400%. And so I don't understand how that beat a Black woman with a financial literacy company. And so I'm finding that social impact is turning into where you are making the impact, or whatever type of way they want to twist it. So how do you feel as though that we don't allow social impact to turn into diversity for white women?
Well, it's an excellent question, and again, it speaks to this issue of inside our communities, because of the, Kanye thought it was a choice. It wasn't a choice, but what really has been the choice is how we decide to move forward from here. And the issue around social impact investing is that Black women have held down a lot of people's businesses, including our men's, over time. And we slipped up when affirmative action was introduced, because affirmative action was the first time white women said, it was the first time white men changed the policy so their women could come in and they would be the front of the company while the men were still running the company. Diversity is no different. So the diversity inclusion conversation in STEM, where I am, is you get to talk about, it initially started out as all women. over the last 6 or 7 years, it's become women who are underrepresented groups. And if you're a black woman, you're not necessarily in that group, you're over here with the black men. So how do we protect that space? I think we protect that space, one, by calling people on their mess. Right. When white women are sitting in rooms talking about we're women and you're minorities, I was honored to serve on a committee with First Lady Frances Wolfe, and I said, I'm not playing with all of you all anymore. You either talk about all women or no women. This conversation's over. Because
are they not doing that?
Oh, they are not doing that at all.
Isn't that historical though? When you think about feminism versus womanism, when you think, I mean, like this is, we've seen this,
what
you
is
know.
the privilege they're protecting?
So I wanted to speak to because I actually wrote that down in terms of the social impact piece, like why you were saying, this is Shelly from Black Girl Ventures, because there's so much there. I don't know that VCs get social impact yet. I think that the more, you know,
they're still figuring it out.
Consider it charity.
Well, for them it's too emotional, right? It's too it's too long term. It takes too long. Like we needed to happen quick.
Right.
In reality, all of the investments are social impact. Because if you're hiring people, you know, let's talk about that. You know, if you're hiring people, if you are funding something that can hire people that could potentially work toward solving the generational wealth gap, that is social impact, right? So hiring is that. And in cities and governments, they're looking at how do you create citizens, right? How do you create people who are paying taxes, right? Like that's what they want. At the end of the day, the bottom line is cities and governments want you to create people who are paying taxes, okay? And that means hiring people. And so when it comes to social impact, I feel like, why are we going down this path of like, oh, you're a VC and oh, you're a social impact? Like, no, you're all creating social impact if you're creating people who can hire people. That's one. The other thing is that I see, not only do I see people stretching what social impact can mean from just from like what they'll back, but even the entrepreneurs, like the Black women entrepreneurs that I've worked with, some of them are doing things like giving away things before they even make money. It's like they're pitching, they're saying, oh, we have a social impact cause because we give away for every pair of, you know, whatever you buy, we give away one to somebody. No, you haven't even made $1 million. You cannot give away anything.
Right.
That's actually how Warby Parker, which was just $1 billion valued business.
Yeah, but have you heard the story?
They gave a pair of glasses to everyone.
Have you heard the story though? Right. So we don't have the $50,000 from our uncle, cousin, sister, friend. Like, hey, you know, can you give me like $50,000 so I can try this? No.
Give this away, half of it.
We have to be realistic. Going back to competitive landscape. One of the other things that I wanted to say really quickly is ecosystem, right? Like we've been talking a lot about individual pieces. Like Dr. Bracey is bringing up universities. You know, Tiffanie is bringing up the corporations. And then, you know, Darla, she's bringing up the community of the tech entrepreneur. Like all of this
startup
is a part of the ecosystem. And the ecosystem means that entrepreneurs, the talent, the universities and the government and the community, we all work together. So figuring out what those parts are to push the thing forward is going to be the key, I think. I mean, we can go down, you know, the road of like social impact or venture backable, but like, if we don't find a way for all these pieces to start working together, we cannot put out like what the competitive landscape looks like. We won't be able to push those messages to a certain extent. So figuring out what those partnerships.
I think that's also been an Achilles heel of Philadelphia. Not everyone playing in the sandbox well at the same time. Everyone likes to keep sometimes their silos and work singularly, but again, we're always stronger together. I mean, that's just basic golden rules of just being alive. You're stronger together. We have another question in the audience. Yes, ma'am.
Good afternoon. I'm Valerie Cofield. I'm president of the Eastern Minority Supplier Development Council.
Yes, Val Cofield. Good to have you in the room.
I want to build on this idea of building the ecosystem and how we do, organizations like ourselves, we are siloed. And we are not collaborating enough with each other to bring to bear the type of impact that you need from us as leaders to help move you forward in the development of businesses and in their wealth creation.
Absolutely.
And so, you know, I'm proud that I have Pam Rich-Wheeler here from the Business Center, and she and I have been working collaboratively together, our organizations. But we need more of that because I think what happens is we get into a competitive space. where we're competing with a finite pool of dollars in
know.
order to provide services back
Right.
to you, when at the end of the day, if we came together, we would be stronger because now we're giving collective resources out. But to your point around the big tent in the diversity space, it's not just white women anymore. White men have figured out how to backdoor this thing and make themselves included under this umbrella of the big tent. Before, it used to be under the guise of propping their women up in businesses. But now, you know, and no disregard to our brothers in arms, but veterans are now at the table. And the LGBTQ community is now at the table. So this is not just a minority business versus a woman-owned business. Now the tent has gotten bigger, but the pool of resources remains the same. The pool of commitment remains the same. Diversity has not expanded because the tent has expanded. It's the same commitment, and if that, no, I'm sorry.
Right.
I'm making a statement. Is what
Right,
she's
right,
saying.
right,
So
right,
my
right,
question to
yeah.
you is,
Absolutely.
when you look at finite resources, when
Yeah.
you look at finite engagement, how do we help you develop this ecosystem in a way that is going to move this needle forward? I really focused in on this inclusive prosperity because that's really foundationally what we're trying to do.
Yeah. I mean, anyone can jump in.
I've been
Yeah.
talking so much, I want to let
Yeah.
other people talk.
I mean, I'll just, pitch it, that question real quick. I mean, I think it's going to take a little bit of some going on the grassroots side of really offering space and time and opportunities that it's almost like you got to go where people are. So if you know that there's, a community that is in need of what you do, and I don't know if people know what Val does, but she's a certification agency. So she, you can correct me if I'm wrong, Valerie, but you certify businesses to do business with the government, whether it's the Commonwealth or whether it's, the city. I don't think it's city. I think it's just federal. Is it federal? Is it Commonwealth? It's small. Okay. Private industry. Okay. Okay. You're the connector. Okay. Okay. A product or service in demand. Oh, okay. 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 That helps clarify. I mean, Shelly, yeah.
So there's a couple of resources. This is Shelly from Black Girl Ventures. There's a couple foundations that have put out like playbooks. So I know the Kauffman Foundation put out an ecosystem playbook that is based on research that breaks down like how ecosystems can work together and all the different names and parts that they came up with. I think the Case Foundation, actually not the Case Foundation itself, but Revolution, which is their venture sister company, they also came out with an entrepreneurship playbook. There's actually a grant out right now, we can talk about that, from a company, INBIA, for anybody who wants to create playbooks around like what it would look like to have a diverse entrepreneur center in a city. So that could also, I could share that with you later. But just on the surface of like where you can actually go to get some things that you can download, read, figure out how other cities are doing it or what's happening, that could be one place. And to Brigitte's point, start with who you don't know. And I would say pull together, even based on those playbooks or your own, just pulling together like one person at a time. I think sometimes, like when I was working in school systems, people would be like, oh, we reached out to the school system to offer a resource. And I'm like, yeah, I'm working at a high school. I never heard of you, right? And it's because we think that we got to reach out to the main office. You think that you got to go through the Board of Education. You think that you got to, not saying you, but I'm just saying like people think that they need to go to the central office, and you really don't. You just need to go talk to a teacher. So
Yeah, that's true.
Didn't have a background clearance.
Add to that, right?
I think your point is well taken about this. The ecosystem matters because it's the ecosystem that delivers sustainability, right? And I think that I would suggest that one of the ways that I've seen some successful models work, Kauffman's playbook is really good, and the BIA money is about $6,000 if you can match that up with something to develop something for Philadelphia. But I think it's diversifying the distribution channels for the information. we really have to go back to where the churches are. We have to go to where our student organizations are. We have to go to the community centers and figure out ways to, got to catalyze the message. That's one of the things I've always liked about Tiff, right? She will get that message out there. She'll be on message and stick with a message until you get it in your head.
Right.
I have worked with her a long time, and so I think it's the distribution channels among Black women, the sororities, everywhere we have to go, we have to say, A, we want to have inclusive economic prosperity, and this is how we're going to get there.
Right.
Much of the conversation is a feel-good conversation. It's not a strategic conversation. And so I think that's where the distribution channels and the strategy is everything now.
Yeah, and we have to support each other.
Right.
That's right.
Yeah, it's
Genuinely,
collaboration.
without hate or jealousy, or there's a,
That goes into
that's
that
a
as
big
well.
part
That goes into
of
that as
something
well.
that can always
Yeah.
be, just a limitation. Like we
Yeah.
have to be able to let other people do their shine because it's all moving the dial in the same direction. It should be.
Right. I mean,
Absolutely.
part of one of the reasons, Tiffanie from Stimulus, that we started Stimulus was because it was kind of like that competition between the resources and creating that platform that not only the corporations knew what the other corporation was doing, but the other nonprofits and foundations and economic development departments knew as well. So like one of the projects that we worked on with Comcast, like we created this event where they was giving out $5 million in grants to nonprofits. So we created an event and they used our platform to discover the applicants, but then they also created an event that brought people together. And then we saw in one room that there was so many nonprofits doing the exact same thing that they collaborated to go after the money instead of Comcast having to choose between one or the other. They saw what everyone was doing. So that's a part of what we were thinking when we created the platform and the intelligence dashboard of, if you knew what others were doing, if you knew what resources everyone was doing or going after, you would collaborate more and you would understand that we can do it together versus us trying to fight for it. And it goes into enterprises as well, because when they're looking for applicants, they're looking for pretty much the same people when they're talking diversity and inclusion. So if you know from everybody's database that I can work with you on this, or this department can work with you on this, it comes together and it creates that one ecosystem that helps not only the corporation that's giving out the money, but it helps the nonprofit or for-profit that's looking for the money as well, or in-kind resource.
And if I can just add to that, Darla, Wolfe, Philly New Tech Meetup, and Sweat Equity, it's about coming to things like this and understanding what the need is again, right? At our meetings, at the end of the Philly New Tech Meetup meetings, we open the floor so that companies and startups and individuals can talk about what they're looking for. I'm looking for a supplier for this. I'm looking for a programmer for this. It's about being in the moment and being in those places where you can hear what the need is and then filling it.
Absolutely. Any other questions in the audience? Yes, sir. Okay.
Good afternoon, everyone.
Hi,
Ladies, y'all was phenomenal.
Thank you, sir.
And thank you. I love you.
Thank you, Mr.
And I
Tyrone.
appreciate the information. I asked a question, and Dr. Teresa Randall, who moved on to glory, really was looking to come and be a part of this. She and Mr. Jonathan Lee was talking about how Jonathan was speaking all across the city about the University of Penn getting the $700 and $800 million for their research and development. And in 2.5 years, they have turned that $700-800 million to almost $3 billion. How do they keep that type of resources from us?
So I'm gonna let Dr. Bracey tell them. But this is something that I think is interesting to Philadelphia. One of our assets that's not being properly resourced to us. But our our university corridor is stellar. I mean, we have one of the tightest stellar corridors in the country. Drexel, University Science Center, University of Penn, Temple. Just in that, that U Street, that University City corridor, so much money is getting thrown into life science and cancer development and all types of products that we are all going to be needing. Everyone is, but we're not included in that prosperity. which is why I'm touting inclusive prosperity. But I don't know. But yes, because the universities don't like to sometimes, open up their arms, but they are always the ones that are surrounded by the communities that could be of course, the most impacted. Yes, Angel Rich.
Sir, they are not keeping it from us. We are keeping it from ourselves. Let me explain. The way that they are able to get this money is from something, and Dr. Bracey, I know you're familiar with this, is from something called the Small Business Innovation Research.
Yep.
Oh, SBIR grants.
Currently, Temple is the only university that is applying for this money that goes towards diversity. To the point that I thought Temple was a HBCU. And when I went...
We sometimes call it that fondly, but they are not.
I have researched the entire country on this. I'm one of the leading experts on it. I go around to different schools and talk about it. That's the reason I'm the founding director of entrepreneurship at Hampton University right now. And I've been mimicking it after Temple. Now, Temple is the furthest ahead, but for the entire rest of the country and the entire rest of Pennsylvania, nobody is applying for this money. Right. We don't even know about it. Right now, they have money earmarked for diversity and HBCUs where they're required to put it aside. It's called a set-aside. But even with that, because we don't even know about it, and because we don't even have people in STEM, because we don't even have researchers, we don't even apply for it. So if we were to actually apply for this money, which Shelly is why I'm at Hampton, okay, on my knees with these people, we just simply have to come together and educate the entire community, because there are hundreds of millions of dollars that's just sitting there that we simply just have to apply for. And I ain't gonna go further, but just look up SBIR.gov. I'm sure Dr. Bracey has more information on it, and I'm sure you can partner with Temple University to get more of this money. And what I would love to see is more HBCUs partnering with Temple, and hopefully, I don't know what secret sauce Temple done got. I don't know if it's Dr. Bracey or what's going on at Temple.
Probably is.
Well, they got a sister who is apparently doing
yes,
some
I heard
leadership.
that. I don't know if you saw me have a reaction to you saying
over there.
That could be together immediately.
That is the key, though, because even with us, and like I've talked to SBA, like the federal SBA representatives.
Girl, I know them real
well. Even going and looking at like what we can apply for and thinking like what applies to our business. So okay, well let me say.
And it's not even SBA, because shout out to Mark Walsh. Mark Walsh has got on the phone with Hampton. I ain't even gonna put Hampton out there, but Mark Walsh has got on the phone with different people. I could call Mark Walsh right now here and answer the phone. I'm also involved in a very secret thing with bipartisan policy with 45 and all type of stuff. So I know for a fact that they trying. I'm in the room.
It's part of the policy for the land grant colleges. And the issue so I have the agreements now with Jackson State, Morgan State, North Carolina A&T.
Aggie Pride.
Right.
Throw that out there.
Michigan is coming online. So the issue is, Black folks, please, I'm begging you, understand how to leverage these universities.
Right.
They are the ones that.
It's not easy though.
But I want to tell you why.
Like
I'm gonna tell you why. For the provost, who was a former dean of the law school, to say, I like that strategic initiative, because I said, if we can turn North Philly, you can turn the entire city. Because Janie Blackwell is doing a heck of a job in West Philly, and all the resources are going there, and all, she, whether you appreciate it or not, the political process, that sister has been holding the line.
And she got that West Philly area designated as a promise zone.
As a promise zone.
Exactly.
And
so
a
lot of it is the zoning that the universities can go after. A lot of it is the NSF and NIH money for R&D. Again, everybody's on sustainability. NASA sends in information saying, can you teach kids how to grow salt-tolerant plants, please? Because there's not enough fresh water around the world. That's where the money's coming in on SBIR, right?
Yes.
That's piggybacking on sustainability. I can't say that enough. If you don't ever see me again, understand all of the money, especially to the land grants right now, are around sustainability. Down in Atlanta, Clark Atlanta has just signed on. The brothers who own a $40 million construction company have just created an ag tech incubator for technology transfer. Ain't nobody playing with us, because the rest of the world knows The water is drying up.
Right. Yes. Yeah, and if you understand resources and understanding that SBIR, because they're actually on our platform, we partnered with them last year. They give grants to for-profit companies. Like if you do real research on resources for businesses, especially minority-owned businesses, you know that there is funding and grants, not just for nonprofit businesses, but for for-profit businesses. And they have from idea to execution, starting at 100K to more. So if you understand like those types of partnerships and collaborations, that you understand that they've been going to a lot of small like rural companies to do events. Unfortunately, they haven't come to like the Philadelphias and DC to really have those type of conversations, but they are traveling around on a tour. But there's not enough black women in the room or minorities in general in the room understanding you can get money from idea. I mean, you're just thinking of it, program, pitching it to execution.
No, we gotta peel back the layers on that though. Like I love this. This is great, and I love what you're saying. Yeah, let's have that ecosystem, collective brain power conversation.
Every university in the United States has a technology transfer commercialization office.
Right. Yes. Like, I'm aware. So let me be clear that like I'm aware, right? And so this goes back to that hair industry kind of scenario where it's like, oh, we know that the hair is being made, right? I need a 300 square foot building, and who am I gonna go get to fund it? Right. You know what I mean? So like it is
to manufacture to start
again,
your own thing, right?
You go to any university and you get a professor to agree and sign on. That's all you need.
Exactly.
I used to turn my NSF proposals.
Exactly.
On what?
Yeah.
Right.
So interrupt.
So I'm a computer science student at the University of Pittsburgh, and it's crazy the lack of diversity in these tech programs, because their version of diversity is because it's so saturated with white men that just getting women in these programs, so they're not even focused on the black communities, they're not focused on black women, they're only focused on just getting white women in these programs.
Right. And you're university, you said Pitt University?
Yeah, Pitt University. So all of these fundings, they're not going towards black women, they're not going towards the black community.
Yeah. Pull back the leg. Why? Again, like I'm still want to chop at the why, because I feel like we have these higher level conversations and be like, it's all there, and I cannot tell you how many times I've been to a conference, been on a panel, and heard a white man say money is not an issue. It's not. Everything's available. Resources are everywhere. And then I go into other conversations, they're telling me the same thing. So when I pull back the layers and I look at a community that I work with, which is 10K strong black women, ventures, right? And I'm going to them to say, hey, this is available, right? Like here is this thing. It goes back to competitive landscape. It goes back to these sustainability pieces that we're not preaching to each other. It goes back to not even thinking about, I think sometimes we're overthinking what business we're gonna start and not starting it for the money. So we don't, this is a cultural money issue too, just around ideas about money, why we get money, how we make money, instead of saying, no, I'm doing this for the money. Like, this is what I'm doing for the money. Like other cultures don't always have such a problem saying, I'm just starting this thing for the money. It doesn't matter if it helps people. It doesn't matter. And I'm not saying that.
If I wanted to start a biodigester company right now, I would partner with the first 3 white girls that I know and I'm not saying this with a broad sweeping brush, but in the sustainability industry in the United States, it has been white girls leading that charge. Environmental opportunities. I think that's where the partnering comes in. And again, if you talk about UPitt, it's a sister who just picked up the biggest NSF grant on the includes thing. NSF and the rest of the United States, so 53% of the United States are now black and brown children in K-12 space. We've hit the majority now, but we are woefully unprepared, and we are mainly taught by white girls who are themselves underprepared. So the excellence, the ability to compete when you are going up against people who themselves, their own culture has denied them access. So I think some of it is how do we partner up, but partner up using the data on where the strategic gaps are so that we can be sustained, because there is money because there's no wealth. When the Titanic went down, what did they do with all that wealth? And that's how white men, if black women have any particular moral place right now, is that we are the most the most beautiful representation of what democracy is supposed to look like.
Right.
We don't have that conversation. We don't take that ground that says the Constitution wasn't written for us, but we exemplify what it means.
Come on, doctor. This is the conversation I want to have.
Exactly.
This is the conversation I want to have because one of the Black Women Ventures that's a part of Black Girl Ventures, she said to me, like, we are constantly pushing ourselves into a Eurocentric way of doing business, and it is breaking us down. Like, one of our inabilities to scale is our lack of ability to work together, and where did that come from?
True.
So,
Right.
you know, just, yes.
We had that conversation multiple times.
Sisters in the struggle. Unleashing the power of Black women tech entrepreneurs.
Yes.
I got it.
We have to figure out better ways to work together.
And then we're going to wrap it up. And I think, Yashira, there's so many. I know there's so many. Okay. All right. Got it there. Yes, sir.
Yes, good afternoon. I'd like to say thank you to you all. You inspired me a lot and actually giving me more homework.
Good. Right. Homework is good.
So outside of a core founders group, speaking for entrepreneurs, you know, it's pretty hard to get people to believe in your vision and want to work with you. You know, sometimes it's even hard to get your parents to believe you. But I would like to know, like, how can we market these Black tech companies to our most talented engineers, you know, our managers, our skilled laborers? Like, how do we get our best to want to work with us?
Great question.
Well, part of, that's a great question, by the way. And it's part of why I started.
Darla Wolfe.
Yep, Darla Wolfe, sorry. Sweat equity, because there's an inherent risk in taking, you know, your livelihood and saying, okay, I'm going to go and run a startup, or I'm going to quit my job and move over into this place, right? You're not going to convince everybody to do that. When I launched my first business, I said, great, you know, I'm going to get all my friends to come over and do work with me. Well, they're not going to do that, right? They're not leaving their six-figure jobs or their comfortable lifestyle to do that. So a lot of why I started Sweat Equity is so that people can find those kinds of jobs and positions in companies that they believe in, and then contribute their time to it in their spare time or their second time. Because we have a lot of people who are very, very talented, but they don't want the risk. So how do you do it with less risk? And so in those early stages, it's all about managing risk. And that's what that platform was designed to do. But as a starter, as a founder, the thing you have to do is you have to lay out your plan, right? People will believe in you when you have a plan, and it's got to be on paper. I'm going to call my son out here who is starting a business. And what I told him was, it's not enough to be able to just say it and have people believe you. Where is your plan? Where are your numbers? Where's your profitability, right? Because nobody's going to invest in a business if there's no way to show profitability, whether it's a social impact or whatever it is that you're doing. You've got to have your plan laid out.
Absolutely. I live below my means so I can invest in my sons.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, just because you make it don't mean you need to spend it.
I do not live above a certain level because I made sure my sons came through school prepared to press restart if they had to. So one is we just invested in his water ice through leveraging my connections with those folks in Nigeria. We shipped over a water ice machine. To this sister's point, it doesn't have to be major. It has to be, I gave birth to you, so I'm going to play the odds that I must have me and your father did a pretty good job raising you. So you came with an idea, we live below our means so we can invest. The second one, we're helping him buy his third piece of property. The next one coming up, he graduates this year in engineering. What do you want to do? They're going to Tanzania to see if they can buy some property. So
real estate.
I think it's real estate. So the idea though is, as a community, what can Black women do? Pool our money, live below our means to create our own equity funds. That's why I would send my money to this sister here and say, okay, manage it, and you tell me, as long as my request, as long as the businesses are filling the gaps and they're not the traditional businesses that can only support one person or three or four people. You know, I don't mind going to the hairdresser. I want to support Black business. I don't mind Uber driver. I don't mind the fact that we are, when you look at many of the university campuses, I'm not just going to call out my own. Black folks are the security guards and the servers. We are not the faculty. And that's why the investment in this was so powerful. She sent a signal across the university that what we're going to do in this part of the city is going to be invested in. So I'm living below my means even in my center. I'm not hiring the extra 2 staff so I can use the money to invest. It's a mind shift that we have to have, that we don't have to have everything. Because you guys are going to need to sustain this. So I would just say that you want some ideas around who we can connect you with. I'm sure all of us are happy to connect with everybody in here.
Right.
Because this is where the information flow has to happen. But it is, the mindset is live below our means until the next generation can pick up the baton.
Yeah, and definitely understanding that the no's that you may get, like I learned a long time ago that people give you advice based upon their own experience and not based upon the question that you're asking them. So once I learned that over the last 12 years, all of the no's that I've gotten, and I looked at the person that I asked, and just because they're successful in one business doesn't mean they understand the business that I'm pitching to them. So the no's doesn't always mean that your idea is not good or that you're not going to be successful, but you got to look at the person giving you that answer. And once you understand that, then regardless of whoever is in your support system, it doesn't matter because you know the people that you're going to get the yeses from were supposed to be in that support system. So I understand what these no's means now. And, you know, being an entrepreneur now almost 15 years, it's like this no takes me to this next level. And that's why I've been, you know, still in this business for this amount of time. So look at who you're asking these questions to and see why they're giving you them their answers. Is it based upon their experience or because what they're actually giving you is good advice?
Yeah, to Tiffany's point, no doesn't mean don't do it. No means I can't do it for you, or I just don't get what you're saying. Like, that's what no means. It doesn't mean don't do the thing, all right? To the thing about the plan, when, Darla didn't say this, but when people say business plans, I cringe. You got white men out here raising $1 million on stuff they just wrote a bulleted list for.
Amen.
On a napkin.
Amen.
All right, on a napkin. So, but you can do that actually.
Depending on who you're speaking to.
It is an audacious, like it is a delusional, crazy, just like effort to do it. Don't get me wrong. Like, and believe me, I understand. I was in this stint of entrepreneurship. The first thing I started doing was building stuff. So I built this teepee to rent out in my house. Everybody thought I was crazy. I didn't even know how to drill a hole. I was at Home Depot and they're like, "What are you about to do?" I'm like, "I'm gonna build this teepee. I'm gonna put it in my house. I'm gonna rent it out." And they were looking at me like, "Lady, nobody's gonna sleep in your living room in a teepee." Guess what they didn't know? 1, it worked. 2, Airbnb has a teepee option, a tree house option, and a boat option. Okay, so people can stay anywhere they want to stay, and it worked, right? So I think, and when we think about investment, for me to start my t-shirt company, my mom gave me $5,000. I took that, started a t-shirt line called Made by a Black Woman. By the end of that year, we made Essence Holiday Gift Guide. I took my tax money and bought print machines to be a screen print shop. Like, there is money that we're getting, and I'm not saying, like, everybody can do everything. I'm not. But with enough craziness, that's all I can call it, right? Because that's what the world would kind of call it. Not because it's not crazy.
What do you have to lose?
Yeah,
So
I mean,
let me clarify.
yeah.
So when I say a plan, and I agree with you, I agree with you that I don't mean you have to have a specific business plan laid out like that, but you do have to have a plan of what you're going to do, right? You didn't go. Your plan was to go to Home Depot, build the TP, and figure out a way to market it. You got to have at least that. Right, you got to have an idea of where you're going with something, because if you just leave it nebulous, you tend to, well, people, not you specifically, tend to change and pivot before you can even deliver a product of any kind. You have to have an idea in your head, and you have to have an idea of how you're going to get from point A to point B. And no, you know, all of those options are not open to us, and that Airbnb story is a good one. You know, they pitched on like 3 PowerPoints, but we're not the people. We just the whole reason.
And they filled the whole platform with Craigslist ads.
Yeah.
So, and don't tell me what you can't do. I don't, you know, I can't do some things too. We all can't do some things, right? Like as an investor, I would not be confident as a founder and go do everything you can with what you have.
Well, before we close out, these ladies are going to be definitely around after the panel is over. We definitely want to make sure they have one opportunity to just share some quick gem that they want to leave out for the audience before we wrap it up and close out this broadcast. But again, just like to say, on behalf of Wilco and WRD, my name is Brigitte Daniel. I'm the Executive Vice President of Wilco and the founder of Mogulette. We were so excited to have this panel. I think we can all agree that we needed to have this conversation. Absolutely. Absolutely. The more that we have the conversation, the more that we're pushing the dial. And I think something that WRD and Wilco have always said is the more that we're pushing, the more that we're getting higher. Because that's just what we need to do as a community. So we just want to just go down the line real quick, and then we'll have Sarah Lomax-Reese come up and just share some closing remarks. Again, thank you for joining us as Sisters in the Struggle, Unleashing the Power of Black Women Tech Entrepreneurs for Philly Tech Week 2018. And we look forward to seeing you next year. Thank you. Thank you. So we're going down the way with Shelly, Dr. Bracey, Tiff, Darla, and then we will, then we'll close it out.
Shelly Bell from Black.
Go ahead.
Yeah. Shelly Bell from Black Girl Ventures. Visit us at www.blackgirlventures.org. We will be launching in Philly on July 19th. You can apply and actually get tickets for the event. Follow us on Instagram at Black Girl Ventures.
Jamie Bracey, you can reach me at Temple University's College of Engineering, jamie.bracey@temple.edu.
And I'm Tiffanie Stanard, founder and CEO of Stimulus, and you can follow us on social media at yourstimulus.com, and also our website is yourstimulus.com.
Yep, and I'm Darla Wolfe, Sweat Equity and Philly New Tech Meetup. You know, I encourage everybody to show up at an event, show up and learn. We are pntm.org, and I am Darla_TechLife on Twitter.
Awesome. Let's give the panel a huge round of applause. I'm Sarah Lomax-Reese, the President and CEO of WURD, and Brigitte Daniel, thank you so much for doing a masterful job. So what people probably don't know is that Brigitte and I have been doing this for and it's really Brigitte who's doing it. You know, I just say yes. She sends me stuff and I'm like, yep, okay. And that is a huge testament to Brigitte because I tend to be in the weeds. I tend to be, you know, a little bit of a micromanager. And so for me to feel like, oh, she's got this is really, you know, a wonderful, so she's an amazing partner. And I just am grateful that she has all these relationships and these contacts that she brings to the Word family every year through this, you know, collaboration. So thank you. And Brigitte is really on the forefront. And these four women, I know Jamie Bracey, we've been partners in crime in other spaces. So I know how brilliant she is, but darn, I rarely want to be on a panel when I'm listening to a panel, but I was like, I wish I could be on this panel because you all are amazing, and thank you so much. And when Shelly, you said the thing about the business plan, I was like, oh my gosh, she is in my head because I feel the exact same way about business plans. However, it serves its purpose for certain times and for certain people. But I also want to just say thank you all so much for coming. You could have listened, you could have stayed home, you could have listened on the radio, and hopefully lots of people are. But we really appreciate it. It means a lot to us to have the energy in the room and for you to make time out of your schedules to come down and share these experiences with us and the WURD family. We have a great event that's coming up on June 2nd. We will be hosting a wellness pavilion at the Park West Town Festival at 52nd and Jefferson. I believe it's the 11th annual Park West Town Festival, and it's an amazing time. It's a lot of fun, a lot of great information and entertainment, and just a free, fun, good time for the whole family. So hopefully folks will come out to that as well, and you'll be hearing a lot more about that on WURD. Please continue to listen to the radio station, 900 AM, 96.1 FM, wordradio.com. Follow us on Twitter on Word, or on Facebook at Facebook/4Word. And don't forget, you can also support the station by becoming a member, a 4Word member. That is our way of building and strengthening this entrepreneurial, this Black-owned venture. And as our esteemed panelists shared, you know, there are fewer and fewer resources. They exist, but they're not always accessible, and there are lots of ways that people are getting around supporting our community and our businesses. So we have a direct line for you to support us, and we hope that you will. And again, thank you so much to the panel, to Brigitte Daniel, to all of you, to the Word staff for coming out and supporting this event. And I'm sure you want to talk up these ladies after this event. So with that, we're going to sign off. You can join Reverend Al Sharpton, Keeping It Real with Al Sharpton in progress. And thank you, Troy. We're out.